There was a time when Trafalgar Law didn't want to become a pirate. He didn't dream of treasure. He didn't want fame. He didn't even seem to care about becoming powerful. He was just a child, and he was dying. His homeland was being destroyed, his family was gone, and the world had decided that his life wasn't worth saving. But somehow, that dying boy survived, and he grew into one of the most dangerous pirates in the world. This is the story of Trafalgar D. Water Law, and why the world gave him almost nothing to love. Law was born in the country of Flevence. It was known as the White Town because of its beautiful white buildings and valuable amber lead. But that beauty hid a terrible secret. The people of Flevence had been exposed to the toxic effects of amber lead for generations. The disease spread, people began dying, and neighboring countries became terrified that the disease would spread beyond Flevence. Instead of helping, they turned against the people. The country was eventually destroyed. Law watched his home disappear. His family died, his friends died, and the boy who had once dreamed of becoming a doctor was left with almost nothing. He believed he was going to die too, and then he met someone who changed everything. His name was Donquixote Rosinante. To the world, he was a strange and clumsy man, but secretly, Rosinante was working against his own brother, Doflamingo, and when he discovered that Law was suffering from amber lead disease, he refused to abandon him. Rosinante took Law from hospital to hospital, country after country, searching desperately for a cure, but everywhere they went, the answer was the same. Law was dying. Until Rosinante discovered a legendary fruit, the Ope Ope no Mi, a devil fruit capable of performing miraculous surgeries. But obtaining it came at an enormous cost. Rosinante sacrificed himself so Law could live, and that sacrifice changed Law forever. Rosinante wasn't just Law's protector. He became the closest thing Law had to a family. He taught him that the world wasn't completely cruel, that someone could still care, that Law's life had value. But then Doflamingo found them. Rosinante was killed, and Law was left alone again. But before he died, Rosinante gave Law something far more important than the Ope Ope no Mi. He gave him a reason to live. His final message was simple. Law had to survive, and for the first time, Law had a future. Law eventually became a pirate, but unlike many pirates, he wasn't chasing adventure. He carried anger, pain, and a desire for revenge. He eventually formed the Heart Pirates and became one of the notorious worst generation. But beneath the reputation, the child from Flevence was still there, the child who had watched his entire world disappear, and one name remained buried inside him: Doflamingo. Doflamingo represented everything Law hated: power, cruelty, manipulation, and the destruction of innocent lives. Law's hatred wasn't simply about revenge. Doflamingo had taken Rosinante from him, and Law had spent years preparing to make him pay. Eventually, Law joined forces with the Straw Hats, and together they challenged Doflamingo in Dressrosa. For Law, this wasn't just another battle, it was the final chapter of a promise to the man who had saved his life. When Law finally confronted Doflamingo, years of pain came crashing down. The boy from Flevence, the child who had been told he would die, the survivor who lost his family, the student of Corazon, all of them were standing there, and Law finally had the power to fight back. But something important had changed. Law wasn't the same angry child anymore. He had friends, he had his crew, he had allies, and most importantly, he had inherited Corazon's will. Law didn't survive because the world became kinder. He survived because someone chose to care about him. And years later, that belief became the foundation of everything he became. The world tried to kill Trafalgar Law, but it failed because one man named Corazon taught a dying child something the world had forgotten. Your life still has value, and maybe that's why Law never truly became the monster the world expected him to be.
Shambles!